It's kind of funny how just lacing up your running shoes often feels like it needs a soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
You sent us some really interesting stuff this week, all circling around how to optimize that sonic side of running. The whole quest for the ultimate playlist.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, we've all been there, haven't we? You start running, hit play, and,
Yeah.
well, the vibe is just totally wrong.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the link between music and exercise, that's not exactly news. But digging into how you make that work for you specifically, that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
We've got your personal takes, some, solid science backing it all up, and even this clever little tool someone built to make the whole playlist thing less of a chore.
Exactly. And the mission you set us is clear.
Mm-hmm.
Cut through all that and give you the practical stuff. We want to arm you with the insights to make running playlists that don't just, fill the silence, but actually boost your workouts.
Right.
And crucially, stop that mid-run scramble where you're desperately trying to skip tracks. Okay, so let's dive in. What's the basic idea here? How does music actually make us run better?
Well, the research is pretty solid on this. It's well established that music gives runners, really all levels of runners, a genuine advantage.
Okay.
Think about it in maybe two main ways. First, it cuts down on what scientists call perceived exertion.
Ah, right, how hard it feels.
Exactly. That feeling of effort, that little voice saying, slow down, the right beat can be a really powerful distraction. It kind of turns down the volume on that whole I'm getting tired signal.
That completely clicks with something I read in one of your pieces.
Yeah.
The writer shared how, when they were just starting out, really locking into the music's rhythm and lyrics was, well, a total game changer for them.
Mm-hmm.
It shifted their focus away from that initial, discomfort, which is huge when you're building up stamina.
Precisely. And the second big benefit is that music kind of subtly encourages you to push just a little bit harder.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that sort of subconscious pull from a really compelling rhythm. It can be the extra nudge you need to keep a slightly faster pace or, go that little bit further, often without even feeling like you're working that much harder.
So music is like this amazing, almost invisible coach.
Yeah.
But if it's so great, why do we so often get stuck with those generic online running playlists that just don't quite cut it?
Yeah.
I know I've definitely experienced it. It's like endless techno when you want something else, or the energy level just feels completely off for your mood or that specific run.
You've really hit on a key point there. Those ready-made playlists, they seem convenient, right? A quick fix. But they often miss the mark because they ignore two really vital things: your personal taste in music and the specific rhythm that actually matches your stride. The sources really hammer this home. Finding where those two things overlap is the secret sauce.
And it's not just about finding songs with a fast BPM, is it? I remember one really good point about how sometimes a song that's technically slower, but has this strong emotional resonance for you can be way more motivating than some super high tempo track you don't really care about.
Exactly right. Motivation isn't purely physical, about speed or intensity. That emotional connection we have with certain songs plays a huge, maybe even underestimated role.
Uh-huh.
A song that sparks strong feelings, nostalgia, excitement, maybe even defiance, it can tap into a really deep reserve of grit.
Which kind of leads us to what one of the articles called the playlist struggle. Such a common thing for runners, isn't it? That constant fiddling, trying to get the perfect audio backdrop.
Oh, the author absolutely nailed that feeling, didn't they? You put together a playlist, feel all optimistic,
Yep.
and then maybe a mile in, the music is either actively annoying you or just totally bland. And the idea of stopping, messing with your phone, trying to find something better mid-run, total momentum killer.
Completely. You finally get into a groove, and then the music just throws you off. And even when you do create a playlist you love, there's that inevitable point where it just gets old. Playlist fatigue.
Right.
Every beat, every word is coming. And those songs that used to pump you up start to feel a bit, stale. They even mention some classics like Eye of the Tiger or Happy or Chelsea Dagger songs that are almost running cliches now.
Yeah, they become wallpaper almost. Familiarity, even with great tunes, it just lessens the impact over time. That initial energy boost fades and you're back looking for something new to light that fire again.
So how do we break out of this cycle? One of the big ideas in the material was syncing your music to your actual running rhythm.
Yeah.
The BPM theory.
Okay, yeah, BPM. Let's unpack that.
So BPM is beats per minute, the music's tempo, and cadence, which, lots of watches track now, is our steps per minute, SPM. It was interesting that elites often shoot for around 180 SPM, Whereas for most of us recreational folks, it's more like 120 to 180.
That's the range, yeah. The basic idea is if you pick music with a BPM close to your natural running cadence, it can help you lock into a more consistent, maybe more efficient rhythm.
Right.
The article gave a good example. If you run at, say, 170 steps per minute, you could look for songs around 170 BPM, or interestingly, even half that, like 85 BPM, because that slower beat can still line up with every other foot strike.
And there are ways to find music like this, right? Like
Yeah.
those BPM-specific playlists Runner's World had one at a 160 BPM you mentioned. And apparently some tools let you filter your own music library by BPM too.
Exactly. Those can be really useful starting points. But, and this is a really crucial, but the source's stressed BPM by itself isn't the magic bullet.
Oh,
Just because a song is fast doesn't automatically mean it feels energetic or motivating, you know? You could have a 180 BPM track that's actually quite mellow, and it just won't give you that push you need on a hill or during a tough stretch.
that makes complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if BPM is only part of the story, what else did the articles suggest we look at?
Well, one author pointed to two other useful things you can actually find on Spotify. Energy and danceability.
Energy and danceability.
Yeah. So energy here is basically a measure of how intense and active the song feels. They suggested aiming for tracks with an energy score over 50 as a decent starting point for something that feels, driving.
Gotcha. And danceability.
Danceability is more about how catchy the rhythm is, basically, how much it makes you want to move. A high score suggests a strong, easy-to-follow beat.
Ah, okay. So high danceability means it's got a groove that kind of pulls you along, which sounds perfect for running.
Precisely. The idea is to use these metrics, maybe alongside BPM, when you're hunting for running tracks. Generally, higher energy and danceability suit harder efforts, while slightly lower scores might work better for those easy recovery jogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a smart way to find upbeat stuff, even from artists you already like, who maybe aren't always known for high energy music.
This is super practical. Okay, so we've got BPM, energy, danceability. How do we take this further and tailor playlists for the different kinds of runs we do? Because, yeah, an easy jog is totally different from interval day.
Absolutely. And the sources gave some great, really specific advice here based on training goals.
Okay.
For those slow, easy runs or recovery days, the advice is music with moderate energy, but still good danceability. Now, that might seem a bit backward.
Yeah, you'd think you want constant high energy.
Right. But the article pointed out learning to run slow is actually critical for building your aerobic base and avoiding burnout.
Wow.
Even elite runners do lots of easy miles. So that moderately energetic music helps you keep a controlled pace without feeling like you're just dragging yourself along.
That clicks, keeps the legs moving, but doesn't tempt you to speed up when you shouldn't. What about the hard stuff, like interval training?
For intervals, this suggestion is pretty logical. Build playlists that alternate. High energy tracks for the fast bits, more moderate ones for the recovery jogs in between.
So the playlist matches the workout structure.
Exactly. You get that powerful driving sound when you're pushing, and then something a bit more chilled for the active recovery.
And for something like fartlek runs, which are more spontaneous with the pace changes.
Yeah, less structured. The advice there is just to have a playlist with a real mix of tempos. That variety can actually work for you in a fartlek run. A faster song comes on, maybe it encourages a burst of speed, then a slower one lets you settle back down.
Kind of lets the music dictate the surges.
Yeah.
And finally, they mentioned arc-shaped runs. What's the music strategy for those?
An arc-shaped run is basically one where you build intensity towards the middle, then ease off again. Think warm-up, peak effort, cool down.
Okay.
So the music should follow that arc. Start slower, more mellow for the warm-up, gradually ramp up to your highest energy, most driving tracks for the peak effort part, and then ease back down with slower, calmer music for the cool down. It's about making the soundtrack match the physical journey.
This is all brilliant, so useful. Now, one of the really intriguing bits you shared was about this tool, Song 2 Run. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Song 2 Run. It sounded like a really cool personal project, something one of the authors built as a hobby, really. It's designed specifically to take the pain out of building these kinds of tailored running playlists.
Okay.
Essentially, it's a tool that looks at your Spotify library or maybe your recent plays and helps you pick songs based on those things we've been talking about: BPM, energy, danceability.
It's like a little AI assistant for your running music.
Yeah.
Goes through your stuff and finds the right tracks for the job.
Pretty much. The whole point is to make playlist building easier and help keep your running music fresh and, effective.
Nice.
The article gave some neat examples, like it can automatically sort a playlist to alternate slow and fast songs for speed work, or build that whole crescendo and slowdown structure for those arc runs we just mentioned. The author even said they're looking for feedback, so it sounds like it's still being developed.
Wow, that sounds genuinely useful, like having your own playlist expert. Okay, so just to kind of anchor all this great advice, let's quickly touch on the science again. You mentioned some studies were referenced. What were the key takeaways from the research side?
Yeah, the research really backs up the practical tips and the personal experiences. One main finding that kept coming up was pretty straightforward. Music you actually enjoy and that fits the exercise, helps you get more out of the workout. It makes the whole experience better.
Okay, enjoyment matters.
Definitely. Another study showed that faster tempo music can lower your perceived exertion, make it feel easier, even if it doesn't drastically change your actual speed or heart rate.
So it's that psychological boost again, making the effort feel less tough, even if physically things are similar.
Exactly. And another bit of research highlighted how music can sort of shift the whole context of exercise in your mind, improving your mood, and ultimately your performance. And finally, one study found that when people listened to music they really liked, it helped them keep up a faster running speed without feeling like they were trying harder.
That's a powerful combo. Feeling like you're working less but actually doing better, it really drives home how much impact the right music can have.
It really does. It shows music isn't just, background fluff. It's an active tool that can seriously shape your run.
Okay, so let's boil this all down for everyone listening. What are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive into music and running?
I think the main messages are pretty clear. First, make it personal. Ditch the generic lists and curate stuff you actually like that fits your goals. Second, BPM is useful, yes, but don't just focus on that. Look beyond the beat.
Right.
Third, use those Spotify metrics, energy, and danceability. They're surprisingly helpful filters for finding tracks that genuinely motivate. And lastly, think about the type of run. Tailor the playlist, easy run, intervals, tempo to get the most out of both the workout and your enjoyment.
Absolutely. It sounds like finding that perfect running soundtrack is definitely a journey, lots of trial and error. But hopefully, with these ideas and tools, you've got a much better starting point now for building playlists that really work and maybe make that mid-run skip fest a thing of the past.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And that kind of leads to one last thought for you to chew on. If you start consciously curating your playlist like this, thinking about BPM, energy, danceability, personal taste, how might that actually change your whole relationship with running? Could it be about more than just shaving off seconds? Maybe it's about finding more joy, being more consistent, and just making every run feel, well, more engaging and rewarding overall.